All right. Good evening. Hey, William, Brian, nice to see you here on One Screen the Lions. Yes, competing again with Thursday night football and a good matchup tonight. So thank you for tuning in. It means a lot that you're here. And yeah, totally might need to have that second screen up for that game. Um, so I have some exciting news to announce tonight, and that's that I am doing my first annual Home Awards. The Welander Home Awards is a new program that I'm starting this year. And there's going to be a variety of categories that I'll pick winners on. But I want to give you guys a chance to be a part of it as well and vote for People's Choice. So I haven't actually added the deadline to this website page yet. I just realized, but the deadline for voting for this is by next Wednesday, which is the 11th. So by the 11th Wednesday, you need to vote, which isn't that much time. It's a little under a week, but basically contenders are any of the products that have been released this year or that I reviewed on the channel. And so I selected like the list of products you can choose from. There's a handful of car products. Obviously, they've had a very busy year. And then, some other products I've reviewed on the channel or promoted, talked about on the channel, as well as, there's like Nanoleaf blocks, the Nanoleaf Sense Plus Smart Switch, which review on that coming soon. A little bit of a pre-announcement on that. But yeah, so you can select your choice here and then go ahead and it's a drop down menu, but because it goes into, I guess, like another window or something, Mac OS is then hiding Safari behind it. So select from the drop down. I just put the email address there to make sure that people aren't spamming the system too much. That it's hopefully legit votes. But yeah, take your pick, and we'll see what actually ends up winning. So that's the Welander Home Awards coming later in December. And nice to see a bunch of you guys in the chat. Brandon, well, hello. Yes, you're looking forward to seeing you at CES. And thank you for including me in your podcast awards. Pull that up. Had that up on my screen earlier, and then I closed the tab. But I guess that episode is not out yet, Brandon. Am I correct? We'll maybe talk about that next week, or I'll link to that later on. Hello from Ontario, Canada. Thanks, William. Thanks for joining. Very cool. And hello from sunny Australia, Robert. Nice to have, people from all over. And then we got down in Hilton Head, Saul, and of course, Brian from Michigan, and William joining us as well. I did have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, William. It's nice. I have a lot of family in the Chicagoland area, so didn't have to travel I haven't had to travel for a long time for the specific week of Thanksgiving to visit any family or relatives. So that's always nice. But hopefully, if any of you guys had to travel, you had a good safe drive or flight. There was a viral video, and I don't know if I can pull it up or dig it up, but there's a viral video of a raccoon at LaGuardia Airport in New York that like was in the ceiling tiles and then dropped down. Thought that was pretty funny. But again, with those viral videos, I don't know how much was it actually like something that happened last week, or is it just repurposed content from somebody somewhere? We'll never know. But yeah, definitely want to answer some of your questions. We got a lot of news this week that's been happening in the smart home space, especially for like the week after Thanksgiving. A lot of rumors swirling. There's some stuff on Apple's smart display that continues to evolve. And I have more thoughts on like an Apple smart display that's probably going to make it into a video coming your way soon. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Ming Chi Kuo, who's a supply chain analyst, he basically broke the news that he doesn't think the display is coming until the second half of 2025. Because initially, Mark Gurman had reported that it would be sometime in the first half of 2025, maybe around March. But second half means usually, well, it could mean the fall or the holiday season, but it could also mean something around WWDC and then maybe announced at WWDC and then shipping in July. That could be really exciting and a nice time for Apple to announce it. It also could be nice, I think, for a new product category like that. I mean, there may or may not be a software developer story there, but it could mean that Apple doesn't have to work so hard to hide all the references to this new product in all of their betas that they launched that week, which probably is nice for them. And then it also means that, like, like there's a lot of attention around WWDC usually. So with the new product category, I mean, obviously we're all going to be excited about it, but who knows like how much of the rest of the world will be. And so if it's shown off during a time when they have, a big announcement around iOS and other platforms, people will pay attention and then happen to find out about the smart display. And I think that's always a benefit. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not too concerned about it. Of course, all the rumors on the new Siri is going to be coming in the first half of next year. So maybe also Apple wants to get that out prior to the display, because it sounds like the display delays are software. And that's the other thing too, is like Ming-Chi Kuo tends to be pretty good on the hardware side of things. And for like it to be rumors about the software side seems to be, I don't know, like how good his sources are on that. So that's another thing to keep in mind too. We just don't know. They're all rumors are rumors. They're not fact. Oh, cool. So Brandon did that video will air during CES. Cool. Well, thank you, Brandon. I'll stay tuned and be sure to point you guys to it as well. The technical difficulties podcast that Brandon does. Doing a little like creator roundup stuff there. So hello from Garance, nice to see you from New York. Glenn from San Antonio, Texas, thanks for joining. And oh yeah, how's the weather? It's getting cold in Virginia, Miguel. Yeah, we've definitely had some weird weather yesterday, especially last night. Really, there was just a lot of. It's very windy in the Midwest frequently, right? Like just it's flat land and the wind just blows through. But last night was especially windy and cold, and so a lot of stuff outside got blown over and things like that. Thankfully, I mean, I don't think the damage was really all that bad. We didn't lose power or anything, but it felt like there should be like a bad thunderstorm or a hurricane. I mean, we don't get hurricanes, but like it felt like that kind of level of winds. But it was not, and it was just got really cold this morning. For this time of year, it's been pretty cold this past week. Like lows in the 10s or whatever overnight, and then usually gets up to like 20 or 30 during the day. We've gotten a little bit of snow, but not much yet. So yeah, that's it's winter for you. You never know what's gonna blow, what weather system is gonna blow through next in the Midwest, and you just get what you get. One week it's summer, the next week it's the dead of winter. We did not get any thunder snow, Brian. Maybe you got thunder snow. So thunderstorms and the snow together. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Maybe I didn't notice any. I'm not keeping a keen eye on that all the time, but I have a problem with my HomeKit cameras, William Cooper, not showing up on my Apple TV when motion is detected. Any thoughts on why and how getting them working? I am not aware of getting Apple TVs to show when motion is detected. It's the Apple TV notifications tend to be more for when someone rings your doorbell, and then that's when it shows the live view. And of course, you can get notifications for motion on your other Apple devices. But motion could be a lot of things a lot of the time, leaves blowing in the wind. So it's generally not something you'd want interrupting your TV or whatever you're watching all the time. So um, yeah, I don't think. Are you saying that because you're trying to get them to work? Oh, here's someone reporting the reverse problem. Oh, but that's okay. They're getting it on their phone. Okay, that's what I thought. Because you just need to go in the notification settings in your phone to customize that. Yeah, but I would say it's just the doorbell. Now, it's great to be able to tune in. You probably, if you're asking this question, know how to get to Control Center by long pressing the TV button on the remote and then going down to Control Center, and you can select the particular live view you want on Apple TV, and that's always a nice thing to be able to quickly check on something. And you can get to that from a lot of different places in tvOS. So that can be a nice way to just, you hear something or you want to check on something outside. That could be handy. Hey, John, first timer. Thanks for joining. Rebuilding a home. Wow. Drywall. Man, that's serious. And a new breaker panel. That's great. Planning for an Apple home. Okay. So any thoughts on what to do? Well, if you've got the drywall down, and it's not too late, I would think about running Ethernet, Cat 6 cable, around your home. So you probably just need standard gigabit Ethernet. Don't worry too much about like a 10 gig Ethernet. I mean, maybe you could, but the standards I think are still kind of in flux a little bit on that. But at least Cat 6 shouldn't be too expensive to run. Just be sure it's properly rated for, interior, exterior walls, things like that. There's different thicknesses of the Ethernet cable. I just ended up, when I ran Ethernet cable, just buying the stuff that's rated for outdoors, and then I don't have to worry about it being rated properly for somewhere. But then it means it's a really thick cable, although that makes it easier to pull if you're pulling it yourself, to have a really thick Ethernet cable. Although then it's also harder to strip into the end jack and do all that stuff, because there's like a plastic core in mine that I have to like cut out. It's hard with a live stream. I don't really have visuals here to show you what that looks like, but yeah, so I would say run Cat 6 cable wherever you can, so that you can have Ethernet jacks all over the place within reason. And also run multiple of those cables at once if possible. The other thing to keep in mind is just smart switches. Lutron often sell, if you want to go, my recommendation would be go Lutron Caseta, and with that they have like big packs you can get of multiple, like I think a 3-pack or a 4-pack of some of the light switches and dimmers, and you can save a little bit of money usually that way. And that I would go with the Claro switch and Diva dimmer if you can, as opposed to the original line. Now that's all racking up a lot of costs right there. So it could also be something with the smart switches, as much as it's convenient to have them just put in by, let's say, an electrician or yourself while you're finishing out the space, it might be prohibitively expensive to do now, and you just put in the $3 or $4 basics non-smart switches from the hardware store now, and then you could upgrade later on. That's always possible. With the Ethernet cable, ripping apart the drywall again would not be fun. So that's I think the key thing to really prioritize there. And I mean, also just thinking about electrical outlets and locations of those. If you can add more of those, it's always nice to just have more places to plug in stuff. I think that should be good places to start. Congrats on your new home. Oh, good. And you have smart switches galore. That's good to hear. So, yeah, that should be taken care of. But yeah, running Ethernet would be my next thing to do there. And that's also something, it's not like running electrical wire, from my understanding, depending on where you live, there's not as many like zoning regulations around running Ethernet. So you could probably do a lot of that yourself, depending on the nature of, I don't know, the setup and how handy you feel and contractors you're working with, whatever. The variables there for you to figure out, but it might not be as hard as you might think on the surface to run Ethernet, and that would definitely be worth it. And there's actually, I will put in the chat. There's a Quinn Nelson Snazzy Labs video about running Ethernet that is like what I watched to get a handle on it. And he has really good recommendations on like what tools to use and other things. So, oops, sorry. Sorry. Is this the video? I don't think this is the video. I will have to look it up because there's a handful of videos where he talks about this stuff, but yeah, he has a really good video on that. I mean, there's plenty of good references on YouTube for doing your own Ethernet. I'll look at some other questions. Oh, you had crazy wind up in Minnesota too, Brandon. Yeah, it's just big Midwest, lots of wind. Okay. Showing up on my Apple TV when you had a problem with my HomeKit cameras showing up on my Apple TV when motion is detected. Any thoughts on? Oh, wait, we already talked about that one. Let's see. All right. Hey, from the Philippines, Art. Wow. Man, we got quite the global crowd today. Good switches which have a detached mode so you can use smart bulbs. That's an interesting idea, Gordon. I mean, I'm more into just using the smart switches as the means of smarts, and then you can put whatever light fixture or bulb on the other side of that smart switch. But there are some advantages to then with smart bulbs, of course, you get options around color and more detailed things around, let's say, light temperature. Of course, you can get those like non-smart bulbs that get warmer as you dim them and stuff like that. But it's generally, yeah, you'll get more control with that with the smart bulb. So I get the perspective. I'm just usually like, let's just do it once with the smart switch and not really care about the additional side. But oh yeah, that's another good point. S1104. You can run Ethernet depending on the nature of your remodel. Back to the question earlier, you can run Ethernet on the eaves of your home, which is that little spot as the roof kind of extends out over the home. It's not just the brand Eve Home. I think that's where they got it from. And I put Ethernet cable around there myself for some of my PoE cameras, and it can be an easy way to sort of have Ethernet cable that's somewhat exposed to the elements, but is also kind of protected from precipitation and just if you also have like an attic or something, you can sort of get the cable up to the attic and then down out the eave on the side. Hey, Eric, Modern Day Tech. Nice to see you. Taking a break from building a theater. Oh, nice. Finishing electrical wire. Yeah. So maybe you're doing some speaker wire or Ethernet or power cables. That's pretty cool. I will say like it's a cool part of smart home tech is building out a theater in your home, so to speak, whatever that means for your setup and your budget. I'm sure what Eric's building is probably pretty cool and nice. The thing there is just like it's a fun community activity with friends and family. For us, we have family movie night every Sunday night, or almost every Sunday night, as I've mentioned in the past in various videos. And our family isn't really big into watching like lots of TV and lots of movies, but just having that way to make it a much more immersive experience especially when it's really cold outside here in the Midwest and the wind's blowing. It's nice to be able to be inside and watch a movie and just have it be a really good experience. So yeah, that's cool. Hopefully that'll work its way into some new content on Eric's channel over on Modern Day Tech. Oh, yes. I think maybe that's oh, Waterbell 365. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Maybe this is getting back to the question earlier about the HomeKit cameras. Yeah, you can turn on just object detection. I don't ever have motion detection notifications on for any of my cameras. It's always just if a person or animal is detected, you go into the settings and you can customize that so then you don't get all the motion notifications. So maybe that's what the past question was about. And maybe that's why I just never see those on my Apple TV, because when I set up a camera by default, I just never even have that setting turned on. Just going straight to the people and animals and whatever else Apple has in there for detection. I think packages, if you have a doorbell, and maybe a couple other places. New to your channel, Mikey G. Thanks for showing up. Apple intercom via HomePod. I have several Aqara door and window sensors, and I'm trying to generate a message using an Apple shortcut. Is it feasible and straightforward for a novice user? No, basically. So the thing that's nice with Apple Home that you can do that I talked about in a recent video is that you can get a notification to your phone, Apple Watch, whatever your Apple devices. You can set it individually on those devices in the Home app to get a notification when the door opens or closes. And then you can also do various things where it triggers a HomePod, but it's going to be a trickier automation to pull off, and one that requires more duct tape and string that I would really recommend. Unfortunately, you go for it. Like, you could try different options, but it's really, I think, a better job served by a dedicated tool like a security system. And I don't think my next place to look would be, so assuming like you got these Aqara door sensors and they're already installed. So just buying a security system is not probably a logical next step. The Aqara system does have the M1S hub, which you can get for usually not too much money. And that has a speaker built in, and that can be part of your collection of Aqara hubs in your home. And then I think you could probably do an automation from Aqara that would play a sound in the M1S hub to do that. I haven't tried that myself, but that would be my thought of like, investigate that path and see where it leads you, because that might actually be the easiest. And when then keeping all of that part of your smart home stuff in the Aqara system, it could make it more reliable than some like Home Assistant thing that links out to those sensors. I mean, you could do probably Home Assistant or something like that, but you might not. I can't remember with that playing the sounds in the HomePod and how fast that would be. I find the latency on HomePods with networked audio can be pretty bad, so it wouldn't necessarily be as fast as you probably want for door alerts, even if you got some system set up. But that would be my thought. Yes, you have an M3 hub. You could use PushCut probably for that. That would be a PushCut use case. My concern is not necessarily with being able to hook up all those details. My concern is for the reliability, because some part of the chain might go wrong, and then also the latency. Usually Apple HomePods, sometimes on a good day, they're very fast and responsive on a network with hot audio. On a bad day, they're not. And so then it might be something where, one day you open the door and you get exactly what you want. You hear the chime, or someone opens the door and you hear the chime. Another day they open the door and 3 seconds later you hear the chime, and then it's like, what's the point? So that would be my concern there. But I know people have pulled that off and done that. I haven't really done it myself, and because I tend to trust in that case, I want the latency to be low, so that means keeping it all in one system, usually. And then if you don't use push cut, I would say potentially Home Assistant would be something to look at there. If not, one of the other sort of more advanced automation platforms, maybe Homey Pro, which is another thing that, by the way, big news this week with Homey Pro. They have these new dashboards, big update for Homey Pro, or not. I think it's specifically for their Homey Pro line, but from Homey, which is now owned by LG. And it's nice to see after a company like Homey gets acquired, to see them still pushing out big features and updates. It's not like LG's gradually absorbing them into the company and making it so they're never shipping anything new with Homey. It's all still coming out, so that's exciting to see. I have mixed feelings on Homey, and like I like it in certain ways. But I'm gonna hope probably going to end up diving into this in my Substack newsletter sometime soon. So that should be something to look out for, and more stuff on that front coming soon. But yeah, there's a lot of layers there of my thoughts on that topic. But if you're into Homey, or considering checking it out, like the dashboards look like a cool new thing, and I actually have not played with them myself yet. But I'm probably going to check them out just because I want to keep up with it. And Homey, it's like compared to Home Assistant, like if the Homey team could just design Home Assistant, like the software, it's like Home Assistant would be so much better designed if it would just look like Homey. Like the Homey folks know how to build good looking UI and slick, graphics and stuff. You look at their marketing too; it just all looks beautiful. I just wish that the Home Assistant team would just do that instead of what they have. So, I mean, Home Assistant works, right? Like there's nothing bad about it, but it's not good. It's not nice to look at. So, welcome to the chat. For those who are just joining, a quick reminder of something I mentioned at the top of the stream. I am starting my own award show, or not award show, awards, annual awards. I'll make a video about it. And that's called the Welander Home Awards. You can vote for the People's Choice Award over at ericw.org/home-awards. And then also with the contenders of this, the nominees, I should say, I have a playlist over on YouTube, which has all of the different products that are nominated. And basically, to be nominated, it's just a product that I reviewed this year on the channel or was released. So I included the Aqara U200. I never got around to making a video about the U200, but I still think it's a cool product, so I wanted to put it in the list. But I'd love to hear from you all if you have thoughts. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you actually own and use in your home. Ideally it is, but if it's something where, I'm really excited the fact that this product exists and I'm hoping to get one soon, like go for it. Just go ahead and vote here on the page. Oh, good. Now the drop down's working. Maybe it wasn't earlier, but or at least it didn't look like it from what I could see in my stream. But yeah, so here's the drop down, and you can just select it, put an email so we know you're not a spam bot, and hit submit, and it will cast your vote for the People's Choice Award. And there'll be a handful of other categories where I'll be picking some of these products to get awards, but also love to have your vote and part of that for the People's Choice Award. So let's get back to the chat. Yeah. Okay. Greatest things about Homey. Cool. Well, so sounds like you're a Homey user. With dashboard, room files, and you're right. Really wish Home Assistant could actually have the same features. Yeah. And like the flow sort of Homey automations where you can diagram it out and stuff. It all looks really nice and really well done. And I hope, this is a sign that, of course, with LG owning Homey, maybe they can continue to invest in the product and build it out more and just have the comfort of knowing that they have a bigger budget behind them. So that's hopefully where I'm hoping this whole Homey acquisition will go with LG. But yeah, I have more thoughts on that. I'll probably get into one of these days in my coming up in my newsletter. Uh, let's see. You were talking about the latency of audio and HomePod. Similarly, any experience with latency with in-person detection on Apple TV with Wemo HomeKit doorbell? That's a good point, CMAC. It's like there's a so one of the reasons I don't report, like when I'm reviewing a product like a camera or something, and some reviewers do test this, of like latency of, okay, I moved in front of the camera. How many seconds until my phone shows a notification? That is a helpful thing in a certain way to help you know like which one's better, but there are so many variables that can influence that between the connection you have in your home, the Wi-Fi, your Wi-Fi network, the uplink speed of your internet connection, the connection your phone happens to have to the internet at that time, also the location of sort of the edge cache network of any nodes from whatever cloud service that company's using to like forward on that notification to Apple. Like, where does that have to go in the world to get processed and come back? Because even if you have a let's say like a company like Eufy or like a HomeKit doorbell, right? Um, that I'm not sure exactly with Apple's Home Hub all the details of how it works, but if it was a traditional third party app, it would be the hub in your home talks to some server that for that hub that says, "Hey, I got this notification." Then that server sends a thing over to Apple's push notification service, which then knows, okay, this token for this device is this user. We're going to go ahead and send this notification to that device. Then your device, what happens to show you the video or the image in that notification, wakes up in the background with that app, fetches the image from that server, and then shows you the alert on the phone. And so that whole process at best takes a couple of seconds. And there's so many different pieces in that chain between downloading the image from your phone and getting the information out of your home up to that server. And I mean, a lot of times now cameras have including like HomeKit cameras, they're recognize the images on your home hub, but there's also then the connection of the Wemo doorbell to your home hub, sort of latency there that could happen. So there's a lot of variables there, but I would say a couple different things to put your best foot forward. And you might have already done some of these, CMAC, but just for anyone else listening, but also you, first is to have a hardwired, with Ethernet Apple TV as your primary home hub. And you can set that in the Home app now. Thank goodness, it's amazing. Apple added that feature, so that's nice because then you know that you have the most stable connection to your home hub that's hopefully processing the video. Now you have no control over which home hub particular Apple is using to process that video feed from the doorbell. It could be your main home hub, it could not be, but at least you've done the best you can for that. So there's that side of it. Then with the let's see, like if you do the anything with your network, you could look at like the connection you have for your Wemo doorbell and maybe improve the Wi-Fi signal strength there. It could also be the flip side. Sometimes if you have like a mesh network where you bought a 3-pack, you might not need a 3-pack to cover your home, and maybe going from 3 access points down to 2 actually makes your network faster because like you can have too many mesh access points in a network, so that's just something else to consider there. And then also the the connection speed or latency of your connection to the internet. It could be that upgrading your cable modem or something like that, or your plan, or just looking at sort of like how fast your uplink speed is and your latency to the internet, changing that if you can. Obviously, that's usually spending some money, new cable modem or new plan with your internet provider, whatever that comes to, that may or may not be worth it in the broad scheme of things, but that's like another element to consider. Um, and yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be some latency. Like I noticed with my Ecobee doorbell, which is a little bit different, but same ish idea in the grand scheme of things. It's can be around 2 seconds to up to like maybe 3.5 seconds or so. Um, as much as maybe like on a bad day, like 4 seconds or more before you actually get the notification on any device when someone's um, at the door. The doorbell notifications seem to come through a little bit faster, but um, it like the doorbell ringing notifications, but the people detection is still kind of slow. But those would be some things to consider for latency. Unfortunately, there's not too many details you can play with that. And that's also like, I think having a Belkin Wingo doorbell is a plenty great setup. I'm not saying that CMAC should like, if you should upgrade or change. But one thing is, we had another question earlier about the different smart homes that you might, not different homes, a smart home where you're like redoing a bunch of your home and maybe running Ethernet. Having power over Ethernet to connect your cameras to your system reduces the latency that it takes for that image to travel to something where it's processed, then get out to the internet, right? Like it's then like a closed loop of just hardwired cable to get from the camera into your internet or into your sort of central part of your network out to the internet, out to the internet. And then from there, it's just wireless to get to your phone. When you have wireless from the doorbell to your network, and then, it adds that extra point of potential latency. But you're at that point, it's another way you can sort of reduce latency by throwing money at the problem. But it's also like a lot of money and a totally different thing that might not be even possible where you live and the, situation. So, and also with doorbells, Ubiquiti has a PoE, I think, doorbell, but like it's kind of hard and awkward to wire PoE into a doorbell slot anyway, even if you had all the, money and time in the world. So it's kind of those might not be ideal for that specific thing of a doorbell ringing and getting that on your Apple TV. Really looking at, okay. You're right, John. I agree. Home Assistant is getting a lot better. And I'm guessing you're saying Home Assistant is in like the platform. And yeah, they're making a lot of improvements. They're making a lot of the right moves, it seems like, in like changing the structure of their organization, or not structure, but like adding people to help with making it more usable and stuff. But it still has a long way to go. And I think it's also a question. The problem that Home Assistant is going to have is that they have so many users who are used to how things are right now. And, there are some tech companies like Meta who are completely fine with turning their app upside down, and everybody gets really mad at them because it's totally different UI and design. Home Assistant doesn't strike me as a company or organization that would like to do that to their existing users. So then there's like, well, how much do we keep the same to keep everybody existing happy versus changing things to move it forward? And that's an awkward tension that makes it hard to, to change some stuff. But yeah, I agree. It's gotten a lot better. William, I'm looking into building my smart home, especially now that I'm working from home. Cool. Really love to get a NAS. Any recommendations? Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned that, William. I actually have, I think I mentioned this briefly in my Black Friday, Cyber Monday video, but Synology recently reached out, or we got talking about things, and they sent me their new DS923 Plus with a handful of drives in it. I've been previously using a DS920 that I purchased myself. And I think Synology has great stuff. I've heard great stuff about Ugreen, and I've seen their NASs at CES. I haven't used them myself, so I can't speak for Ugreen's quality. But with Synology, I like their software. I like in general. I'm sure there's probably things I could complain about, but nothing's coming to mind at the moment. It is a place where you probably want to get not one of the absolute entry level NASs. You want something with a little bit more power and capability so that it can last you more years. And ideally, if you want to do some smart home stuff on there, run some things out of like a Docker container or other stuff, like you'll have a little bit more resources in the system to do that. And I like Synology's file system and sort of their error checking and reporting for some of their stuff with BTRFS. That's always nice to like. I mean, I keep my I've been playing a little bit more with some of the smart home stuff. Synology has also like they have a what's the standard for RTSP? They have ability with their surveillance station to like have RTSP cameras like send data to the Synology, and you can view it that way. And they have also some nice mobile apps to look at stuff. And then also I just like it for storing files for my YouTube channel as well. That's like the beyond the smart home stuff is a cool benefit, I think, too. But having it as a place to put files and have them locally accessed. Of course, not everybody has a YouTube channel and lots of archival video that they need to reference all the time. So from a practical standpoint, one of the other benefits that's nice, and I'd imagine, maybe Ugreen or other companies have this too, but is you can in Synology use the Cloud Sync feature to create a local backup of any kind of cloud service that you have files in. So if you have a Dropbox, a Google Drive, whatever else, it can download local copies of those and keep them there on your Synology, which is just nice to have like another copy of that there. If something happens, hopefully that would still be intact. So I think a NAS is a good investment. And I'll probably be talking more about it. But that would be my recommendation is so far I've been pretty pleased with Synology. And also if you want it back to the PoE thing, I haven't tried it myself, but they do have a bunch of PoE cameras as well. Like they have their own line of that. I think still too. I know they announced it. It was like end of 2022 they announced that. Oh, cool. Good to hear, Modern Day Tech. So you've tried both and you have you vote Synology. All right. Good to hear. And also I'm talking to them, emailing with them right now. I think we'll hopefully talk to them at CES too, or around that same time. Synology is great and get the biggest drive you can get. Yes, that's another good point, John. Although it is nice, like if you get like a 2 or a 4 bay, ideally a 4 bay, but maybe you could save money and get like the 723 or whatever, the 2 bay size. It's nice to be able to have it in a RAID configuration where you can pull out one of the drives and pop in a new one. Now, that's a whole rabbit hole of like, what's the right RAID configuration and upgrading your drives and how to do it. And I'm sure there's like a million people online with different opinions on what's the right way to do that. But without going down that, I think it is nice to be able to like just plan for the storage up front and then you don't have to worry about it. Also, the last thing on Synology, last two things. One, and these will probably come out in my video too, but you get a preview here on the live stream. There's the option to buy like an NVMe SSD attachment for your drive to cache frequently used files. I don't really think there's a huge benefit there, but maybe you see a reason to for yourself. I think that just having this hard drive storage and then the RAM internal to the device, I think is plenty. And you don't need to worry about having like an additional SSD thing in there. But the slot's there. If you buy a Synology that has it, you could add it over time if you need it. The other thing is a lot of the Synologies now have an upgrade slot for adding 10 gig Ethernet. And I just connect, there's like 2 Ethernet cable ports, and I just connect those for, gigabit Ethernet. And that's plenty fast enough for a hard drive because the hard drive is not going to read at a speed. Now, of course, if you have lots of different things accessing the hard drives all at the same time, like maybe there are certain cases where, there's a reason why they ship the product and sell like 10 gigabit Ethernet connection there. But just keep in mind that if you're just reading data off the hard drive or writing data to it and trying to get that, like the 10 gig Ethernet is a way bigger pipe than you really need to write data to most hard drives. unless maybe you're filling your Synology with SSDs because you just have unlimited money. Good for you. Like that'd be maybe a reason to get 10 gig Ethernet too. And there could be reasons why that'd be completely legitimate business expense. I'm not, looking down on that. But anyways, that's not me. And probably not the most people. I've struggled getting Matter devices into HomeKit. Do others have the same problem? Can't get the Govee Lightstrip 2 added to HomeKit via Matter. Govee support tells me it does not support Apple. So, Carl, I've seen your name here on the live stream before. So maybe maybe you've already tried this from hearing me say this on other live streams, or you're maybe advanced smart home user already thought of this, but it's like, do you have IPv6 turned on your network? Because that would be my first thing, because technically I've gotten some questions on and off about like IPv6, and like in general, I just simplify it by telling everybody it's like it's required for Matter. Technically speaking, there are some products, especially like the Thread Matter products, that you could probably add without IPv6, and sometimes they seem to like have support or ability to work with an IPv4 network. But Govee's one of those products where it was like I tried with their M1 Lightstrip with Matter, and then a handful of their other products. Like right off the bat, I think that Govee and TP-Link and others, like they just require IPv6 with Matter. So if you have a Wi-Fi device trying to add it with Matter and you don't have IPv6 turned on, it will not add to HomeKit. Like the device, your HomeKit, you'll scan the HomeKit code, it'll recognize the device type from the code, and then it'll try and connect and try and connect and try and connect and try and connect, and it will never connect. So that would be my thought based on that description. Maybe there's more details that you can share. And yet, okay, you have, I should have just read more instead of wasting your time. You do have IPv6 and 2.4 gigahertz. Great. And I can get other Matter devices added, but not the Lightstrip. That is weird. And I'm guessing this is the Govee. Didn't say the specific model. Lightstrip 2. Okay. I've not tried that one. If it supports Matter, it supports Apple Home, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. You might want to look at the firmware, see if there's a firmware update. But Govee says technically it doesn't support Apple Home. Maybe the support rep didn't understand what they were talking about. I don't know. Yeah, double check on IPv6, just make sure it's on. And then also just double check the firmware. Those would be my things. Hey, Edgar's Home Tech, nice to see you here. Yes, and I think that's related to the Synology question. So yeah, thanks for that. Oh yeah, John uses one for photography. Yeah, if you have a lot of jumping back to the Synology conversation, if you have a lot of media you want to store locally for one reason or another, especially like if you work in photo or video stuff, can be a really helpful tool. The other nice thing about having a network attached storage in general for Time Machine or for external storage is that like I don't have any external drives to eject from my Mac right now. I can just rip the cables up and take my laptop and go. And so that's always just a nice quality of life convenience that you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to eject my drive before I unmount my laptop. And that's a whole other thing, is like, do you really need to? Obviously, Mac OS complains about it, but if your disk isn't writing to the drive, then, but yeah, network attached storage can be really nice for that. And then also you don't hear the spinning hard drives right there in your desk or wherever you're working. It's can usually be off somewhere else, like in the closet on the other side of this wall for me. So, sorry. If you run multiple assistants, oh, yes, that's a good point. It might be a multi-admin issue. Or you'll have to disconnect all your Alexa, because Govee and Alexa use, they use okay. I'm not familiar with MSS, their new Matter products. and it's adding to your Alexa automatically. Oh, is MSS like the new thing where it adds devices from the same? Because I don't know. But oh yeah, Matter simple setup. Okay, cool. Thank you, Modern Day Tech. Yes, and that's a really good point. If you're using Amazon, check that out. That could be the real problem, Carl. Oh, and no, but he's of course no Amazon or Google, so that's not it. But if you, dear viewer, listener out there, have that problem, it's a good idea to look into the Matter simple setup, and if you have other smart home networks. Speaking of which, and I'll talk more about this in an upcoming video, I've been playing with the Echo Show 22-inch smart display. It's it's an interesting device, and I think it's potentially a sign of where the industry is going and where things could be going with smart displays, and especially as it pertains to Apple. And I talked a little bit about this in like a newsletter issue or two ago, but basically in my newsletter, if you don't know, applehomeweekly.com, you can go check it out. It's a membership over on Substack. And I'm planning to turn on the subscriber chat over there. I haven't done that yet, but that will be coming soon. So then we'll have like a little place to talk as members there. But the thing with the Echo Show 22-inch is just that it's a big smart display, which really changes the nature of it as also being like a TV that's also a smart display you can talk to. And that sounds really obvious in a certain way, but people talk about Apple maybe making a television set. And I think, you know, most television sets, you go in the store these days, they're 42 inches or larger. Good luck finding a small TV. And even if you do, it's like not usually great quality or anything like that. And I think there's still plenty of people who want a TV that's not massive, but it's still good quality. And there are niche manufacturers, you know, manufacturers making some niche TVs that are smaller. But I think when you combine the smarts of a smart display that's always on, or mostly on, and a voice assistant and a way to watch content, I think it becomes really compelling for a lot of places where like like not a primary TV in the living room, but a lot of other places where you might want to have content on. And I think that could be a place where Apple Center Stage camera and FaceTime and, you know, playing Apple TV app stuff, content could be really nice. And of course, you know, the Amazon Echo Show has the Apple TV app, it has Hulu, it has Netflix, has all that stuff. It ships with a remote control. Now, Amazon software is not ideal in terms of the whole like Fire TV interface jammed into the Echo Show that then you can launch those apps with talking to the Amazon voice assistant, but then it's also like, you know, you can use the remote there, and it feels weird and out of place. And like some stuff you have to use the remote for, you can't touch, but other stuff, because it is a touchscreen, you can touch. And I think like someone like Apple could come in. I mean, Google's kind of done this, but their biggest tablets are not even like the 22-inch size. But I think like Google or Apple, especially Apple, could come in and like iron this out and make a really slick software experience that would be really fun and nice and serve a lot of people's needs for a television, but it's not what we think of as TVs. And I think that, you know, you see more and more. I mean, Sony has these beautiful new like 100-inch TVs and stuff that are very expensive. I saw a video on YouTube recently about one of those. So there are kids are going in and out of the room upstairs. Notifications for that. You know, I think, you know, Eric Modern Day Tech was talking about earlier, like building out a home theater. I think we're probably going to see a world in the future with smart homes where you'll have like that nice place to really watch movies. And that could be like a 60-inch TCL TV, you know, with a basic soundbar or HomePods. Like, I'm not saying that it's like a super amazing home theater setup, but for some people it will be. And